Can the Illini turn it around against the Buckeyes? Let's talk about it.
You are Locked On Illini, your daily podcast on the Illinois Fighting Illini. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome back to a weekend edition of Locked On Illini. My name is Sunny Verma, your host right here. Thank you so much for making us your first listen each and every day. If you haven't already, make sure you're subscribed to the channel. I'm well on my way to 2,100 subs, and I really appreciate that if I can reach that in the next week or two. Let's just put it that way. It's Saturday, and this is going to be a short episode because on Sunday, Illinois will be playing Ohio State. And as per usual, I usually try to bring an opposition expert onto the show just to give us a scouting report on who the Illini are going to face off against. And for this one, it was pretty easy for me to find one. I'm bringing back a familiar face. JR, welcome back 2 days early.
There we go. I'm excited to be here. Anytime I can get on, I'm loving it.
JR, again, I do appreciate you coming. For those of you who are my everydayers, you know JR shows up on this show every Monday giving us Big Ten power rankings. And he's also got his own show. JR, why don't you let the folks know about that?
Yeah, the Big Ten Huddle, cover football and basketball. We do 3 or 4 live streams a week, but I'm also posting videos and stuff like that. There's a football channel that's just the Big Ten Huddle podcast, and then there's a basketball channel that's the Big Ten Huddle -basketball.
Okay, so let's, for now, talk about Ohio State. Obviously, Illinois they're reeling right now, and not just them reeling, but their fan base is kind of in a panic mode. Give us a glimpse of an Ohio State team, which really record-wise wasn't all that great, but when you look compared the two, they're only a game behind Illinois at this point. So there's no easy games left for Illinois on their schedule. So tell us a little bit about the Buckeyes.
Yeah, the Buckeyes are a bit of a darling when it comes to the metrics this season. They're top 25 in net, and Ken Palm, I believe they're top 25 as well after that win against Penn State. Kind of blew them out at Penn State, so whenever you blow a team out at their court, that is obviously a big deal for the metrics. And I think there's a lot of people that are very skeptical about this Ohio State team. It's interesting. There were many people that were picking them to be a top 4 team, and then Ohio State played really tough opponents this year and played them close for the most part each time. I mean, other than I think Texas A&M, there were probably a couple others that I'm missing there, but they beat Purdue. Like, they've played some tough opponents and taken some of them down, but also lost close to other ones. So it's interesting to see kind of how the perception has changed throughout the year. There were people that were like, "Oh, it's the sleeper in the Big Ten. Watch out for them." And then now there's people that's like, "Yeah, this team stinks," and the metrics are all wrong.
Yeah, I mean, I believe they played Penn State the game right before Illinois versus Nebraska. Yeah. So I did get to watch a glimpse of Ohio State, and they got some ballers on that team. Tell us of who we should be looking out for.
Yeah, there's the big 4. Bruce Thornton, he's been on Ohio State for a long time. Micah Parrish comes over from San Diego State. He was on that San Diego State team that played, I believe, was it Dusty May in the Final Four? No, I think they went to the national championship game a couple years ago. But he comes from that team, this transfer cycle. And then Devin Royal, kind of a local kid recruit, he came in. And then the star freshman for the Buckeyes, John, they call him Junie Mobley Jr. He's a big 3-point threat, can do a lot of things. Not a lot of big men on this team that are really going to do all that much to you, but Devin Royal at 6'6", he does his best to do his big man interpretation, but at 6'6", obviously that's not always the best case.
Right. I mean, Illinois needs all that, right? Right now we need to find teams that don't really take advantage of our lack of depth at that 5 spot right now. Nebraska, you would think wouldn't really, but Nebraska, and I think the same game plan for Ohio State, even though you may not have an option, down low, just try to get Morez Johnson in foul trouble. Because as soon as you get Morez in foul trouble, all of a sudden the interior defense for Illinois kind of collapses. And, I believe Morez picked up his second foul with like 17 some odd minutes left in that first half. And
he put a Malik Renew.
Yeah. And you see what happened, right? Like Illinois put up one of its biggest stinkers of the entire year. But Ohio State, like when you talk about what kind of offenses they run, are they a 3-point shooting team, inside out? What do they do?
Yeah, they're at their best when they're hitting 3-point shots. A lot of ISO ball, honestly, when they start working well. I think that's just a product of Jake Diebler's not the best at scheming up offenses. I mean, for whatever reason, they really don't have a pick and roll game. Sean Stewart isn't really effective in that area. Aaron Bradshaw, he kind of roams the 3-point arc a little bit too much to my liking. But for the most part, I mean, this is Micah Parrish, Bruce Thornton, and Judy Mobley on the outside, their show. And then when it comes down to it, you dish the ball off to Devin Royal and hope he can do something inside. So a good amount of ISO ball and just trying to let your playmakers make plays, because all four of those guys can score and assist to other people to get baskets as well.
And how about on the defensive side? What kind of defense will the Illini be going up against?
Yeah, a good amount of switching for the Buckeyes. A lot of aggressive defense. More toward the end, they switch things up throughout the game, though. You can see doubles at the beginning of the game, and then you don't see them anymore toward the end. And they really are effective in changing that up the entire time. This is one of the areas from talking to you about Brad Underwood that I think Ohio State might have an advantage in, is with how much Jake Diebler does change up the defense in game. They can come out in the second half and run a completely different defense than what they were running before. So when you ask me, like, what defense do they normally run? It's like all of them. It's kind of one of those things where they just kind of run everything and do whatever they can to. They don't run all that much zone. They're much more man to man, but they will go to zone if they need to. So it just really depends on what they need to do, and I think it's going to be a good test for Brad Underwood to see, how does he make offensive adjustments for the team, not just with scheme and plays, but who he's putting in there and mismatch and stuff like that as well.
So that leads me to my next question. If you're Brad Underwood, how do you beat the Buckeyes?
Well, I would say Visic, but that's I don't think he's coming back in this one. Honestly, you're going to need Ben Hummerkaus. I think Ben Hummerkaus is going to have to be able to stretch the floor, and he's also going to have to be able to get down low. I know you hate hearing me say that, and you and I think similar about Ben Hummerkaus, but I mean, he has to have a good game. You have to take advantage of down low. And Merez Johnson, he can't get in foul trouble. He's got to get Sean Stewart and Aaron Bradshaw in foul trouble. Ohio State is awful down low. They just start throwing bodies down low, and it's just like foul cities. So as far as I'm concerned, Merez Johnson needs to get them in foul trouble, and Illinois needs to hunt for free throws from everybody on the team, because with how good of a free throw shooting team Illinois is, that's really their strong suit. I know they don't get to the line maybe as much as some other teams, but if they can really, make that an emphasis. Perimeter defense for Ohio State has been an issue at times, but like I said, they've also ran it better the past few games. Braden Smith could hardly do anything against Ohio State. And it wasn't just Braden Smith was bad. I mean, Braden Smith wasn't great in that game, but they also made it really, really tough on him too. Micah Parrish is a very good perimeter defender. You just have to get off Micah Parrish and get onto a John Mobley Jr. or a Bruce Thornton or something like that.
And Ohio State wins if?
Ohio State wins if one of their big four goes off. I mean, that's kind of what you've had here from Penn State and Iowa. Your big four all have to score over 10, and then one of them has to get over 20. So it's what Micah Parrish did in the Purdue game. It's what John Mobley did. I think he had 19 in the Penn State game. That game got out of hand pretty quick. So they kind of evened out the scoring as the game went on. But that's what you need to see from this Ohio State team, and this is going to be a good test for this Illinois team with their defense. They've been playing good defense this season, but how are they going to match up with guys one-on-one and be able to keep them away from the basket?
All right, Jared, last question. Jake Diebler, what's the Buckeye fan base thinking of that hire?
People really, really like Jake Diebler. I mean, people really want him to succeed. I honestly kind of look at it like Ryan Day, where it's like, there are obviously Ryan Day was there longer, so he had more people that were upset with him and stuff like that, but people really wanted Ryan Day to succeed when he first started at Ohio State, and they still do, don't get me wrong, and he did a great job this year. So, but that's kind of what you're getting from Jake Diebler, Ohio guy. He played ball in Indiana, so that's just one state over, but his dad was a longtime high school coach in the state of Ohio. He's got roots there. He knows every high school. He was the primary recruiter for this Ohio State team under Chris Holtmann. I almost called him Tom Holtmann. I was like, that's not right. But under Chris Holtmann, he was the primary recruiter for him. So he has all kinds of relationships throughout the state. So the Buckeye fans love him. They want him to do well. It's just you're looking at some of these games, you're looking at some of these adjustments that he's making on offense, and it's we saw a terrible offense from Chris Holtmann for years. We saw ISO ball and not being able to scheme things up for years, and now we're still seeing it again under Jake Diebler. So I hope he corrects it in the offseason. I hope he's able to do something to maybe get a better guy in there to help him with their offense, but we'll see. It's going to need to have some corrections, but overall, very good defensive coach in my mind. Just needs to make some corrections next year, and the fan base wants him to succeed really bad.
All right, Jared, as always, I appreciate your time. I guess it won't be too long before we see your face again.
That's right. We'll see what the power rankings look like.
Oh, no, not looking forward. All right, we'll see you on Monday then.
All right, sounds good. Thanks, Sonny.
Thank you. And that'll wrap it up for this quick preview edition of Locked On Illini. Remember, make sure you're subscribed to the channel because I'll be going live immediately after this game is over. If you can't wait to talk to me until after the game, I'm talking with the Discord all day long. And trust me, against Nebraska, it was like a disaster zone, a lot of frustrated voices. So if you're interested in joining us for during the game talk, definitely click on the Discord link in the description. Either way, I'll see you after the Buckeyes game. I believe it's a noon start on Sunday Central Time. Until then, ILL. Love you guys.